If you are excited for the Khabib vs Gaethje fight, then be sure to show this by smashing the like button. Welcome back everybody to Keenan K TV. In today's video, let's talk about the Justin Gaethje vs Khabib Nurmagomedov fight, but more specifically, talk about why Khabib Nurmagomedov could defeat Justin Gaethje. I've already made a video where I talked about Justin Gaethje and how he could defeat Khabib, so I will be linking that in the description below. But with that being said, let's jump right into why Khabib The Eagle Nurmagomedov could defeat Justin the Highlight Gaethje. Going into this fight, Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to be a fighter who is obviously going to be the fighter with the better dominance in the grappling department if he's able to get control. Now aside from that, we always know that fights start off on their feet, and when Justin Gaethje is starting off his fights, he's a fighter who is pretty hard to hit in the sense of he's not really going to be there unless he wants to engage in a pretty close range fight. That is when the most he has gotten hit occurred, because in terms of being on the outside and moving around, he's pretty good at that, but he just doesn't decide to dedicate his entire fight around being on the outside and hitting you with some pop shots. That's not what really Justin Gaethje is all about, and that is exactly why he has been as effective as he has been. Khabib, on the other hand, he does not want to engage in all of this. He's a fighter where the core principle of his fighting style is to be in control of the opponent throughout the entirety of the fight. Now when you take a look at Khabib, when he comes forward and presses his opponents backwards, it is really going to be in his advantage that he has the speed advantage in this matchup, because going into a fight, for example, where Tony Ferguson fought Dustin Poirier or Tony Ferguson, these fighters in particular are very keen on finding the footing and then slowly warming up to the opponent. Khabib doesn't like to warm up to any opponent. He just likes to come forward and immediately find his opening and then shoot him for the single leg or be able to press the opponent up against the fence. Because one thing about Khabib is this: when you have the skill level in the grappling department like Khabib has, the aura you have and how you're able to intimidate opponents with is something that you cannot really undermine. Because a lot of these opponents, they are just worrying about, oh, what is Khabib going to be doing? And because of that, they're just very worried about what the next move will be from Khabib's side, and they are just kind of stuck in that analysis mindset, and before they even know it, they're being backed up close to the fence and Khabib shoots in on them. Now when Khabib is able to shoot in, he is super fast. He is so fast to a point where a lot of these fighters, they're just so worried about the skill and grappling alone that they just kind of neglect the physical attributes that Khabib has. Khabib is a very strong fighter, he's a very explosive fighter, and he is one of the quickest, if not the quickest, single hitters in the division. As an example, let's take the Eagle Punch for example. The Eagle Punch is a punch that has been abandoned by Khabib, but it just really proves the point that Khabib is able to cover a great distance with a lot of speed and power. That is also why he was able to catch Conor McGregor with that beautiful overhand right. So Khabib fighting Gaethje, we can never overlook the ability that Khabib has to hit Gaethje himself. Now the main difference is going to be the fact that Gaethje has the real power in his hands. He really throws punches with mean intentions. He really puts all of his weight behind every single punch when he really wants to drive in a punch. And when you compare it to Khabib, Khabib has a lot more tendencies to make it a quick boxing lesson over a quick knockout, right? So that is a big difference. And so when Khabib is fighting somebody like Gaethje who throws every single punch with KO intentions, you're not going to be seeing much of Khabib in the stand-up department, because there is literally no point for him to be there anyway. And because of that, there's going to be a bigger tendency and a bigger urgency for him to get the fight to the ground. Now these two fighters, they both have great footwork. I think Justin Gaethje's footwork is a lot more efficient, he takes less steps, and he's a little bit more risk-taking, right? He kind of stands in the middle of the octagon, kind of welcomes the danger, and because of that, he's able to get a lot of great counters in. With Khabib, it is going to be pretty hard for him to be able to catch Khabib like that. Khabib is never going to be putting himself in a position where he's going to be throwing a jab, followed up with a straight, and then a hook, right? So the openings for counters are very limited for Gaethje, and because of that, it is going to be a fight of footwork footwork, it is going to be a fight of positioning, and it is going to be a fight of who can really make the other guy commit. And I believe no fighter is better than Khabib at making the opponent commit to a punch, because you kind of have to immediately try and get Khabib when you're fighting him. And his stand-up department, he's not going to be engaging with you at all, really. He's going to be bouncing around, and when he is bouncing around, he has tremendous footwork. He's very light on his feet, he's very quick, and the quickness is, like I said, very underrated. And I don't know if Justin Gaethje is going to be able to deal with it in terms of being able to react to it. I think the best way for Gaethje to beat it is by being the ring general and the leader of the tempo and making Khabib fight his fight. But you don't really get to see that with many opponents, if ever, really. Khabib always fights his fight and makes his opponents fight his fight. And what that results in is the fact that you have fighters like Michael Johnson who come forward immediately, throw all of their punches, just very desperate to get a hit on him, and who really just give up a lot of position, who end up getting hit themselves and back up even more and get pinned up against the fence and taken down. Or fighters like L.A. Quinta when they get single-legged from, the middle of the octagon. So you never really know what to expect with Khabib, even though you know that the takedown and the ground game is going to be occurring and trying to make its way into the fight. You never really know how it is going to be coming at you, and that anticipation is what really drives people insane. And one attribute that this might affect that Justin Gaethje has could be his leg kicks, because you don't want to be in a position where Khabib is catching your legs. But I don't really think that is going to be much of a problem, because if you think about it, the way that Justin Gaethje throws his leg kicks are usually in a close proximity. It is pretty hard to even get a rhythm on it, because he throws him in such a way that he's able to hide it with his power jabs, his straights, his hooks, and he just likes to end off his combinations with those, or even start him. So it's pretty hard to even get a good telegraph on him. And because Khabib is moving around so much and bouncing around on his feet, I believe that we won't really see Justin Gaethje throw leg kicks from the outside, because those are the most risky ones. And even though they are powerful as well, I don't think they are as effective as him throwing his boxing combinations and then slipping in an inside leg kick and really putting the opponent off balance. So because of the movement, I think that from the outside at least, it is going to be a pretty boxing dominated contest. And with that, it is going to be also a footwork dominated contest, and the fighter who I believe has the most effective footwork out of the two is Justin Gaethje. But at the same time, it is also Khabib Nurmagomedov who is able to create a lot of angles and a lot of distance in between his steps. So is Khabib really going to be engaging with Justin Gaethje? No, I don't really think so. So what that really leaves us with is the ability that Khabib Nurmagomedov has to apply this freakish pressure out of nowhere that can get people to have this overflowing wave of information that they can't really process, and they kind of just immediately want to back away and get a good read of the situation. And when that happens, you usually end up with Khabib flurrying, rushing forward, flying knees, even though he hasn't done it lately. However, if the situation requires something pretty desperate, that is also something that Khabib can fall back on. Now, I have a pretty hard time believing the fact that Khabib is going to be able to pressure Justin Gaethje. I have never seen anybody pressure Justin Gaethje in the stand-up department, let alone somebody like Khabib, who doesn't really pressure his opponent with his boxing anyway. So, with the ability that Justin Gaethje has to stand his ground and leg kick and have this D1 All-American wrestling background, I think he's going to be more than comfortable standing his ground and welcoming incoming takedown attempts. But the problem is this: even though Justin Gaethje could perhaps defend one takedown or two, it is going to be pretty hard for Khabib to go in for a takedown, shoot in, right? And then let go and totally disengage from any clinch work. Let's just say when he shot in against L.A. Quinta, when L.A. Quinta was able to defend it from an offensive position, Khabib immediately let go. But that was just one takedown. You also have to take into consideration that the more takedowns Khabib shoots in for, the more pressure builds up, the more psychological pressure builds up as well. And with that, you might actually see Justin Gaethje back up and create a little bit more distance to where he feels comfortable seeing incoming attacks. And when that occurs, usually the opponent starts getting hit with some clean jabs, some clean overhand rights. So when that all happens, it is going to be pretty hard for any opponent that Khabib faces to then get the control again of the action of the tempo. And when Khabib is in control, it's pretty much a done deal, right? Because then you will see Khabib coming forward, feel a little bit more comfortable, and then before you even know it, he shoots in for a pretty quick single leg or a double leg. Khabib is very quick, and I think that quickness is something that Justin Gaethje is not going to be dealing all too well with in the stand-up department and in the grappling department, because the jabs and the right straights that Khabib has, they're pretty quick, and I highly doubt that. Like I said, Justin is not going to be able to counter him immediately. I think the best counters he can get is when he's able to make Khabib move and pin him against the fence and make him work back. But other than that, I highly doubt that the single quick jabs that Khabib throws is going to be something that he can counter. And this transitions into his single legs as well, and when he shoots in for the single legs and when he's able to pin him against the fence, defense, I believe that he can finish the takedowns, though it is going to be pretty hard for him to do that because I think Justin Gaethje has great takedown defense, even though we haven't really seen it. I think that is going to be a takedown Khabib has to really work hard for. But when you're pinned up against the fence, Khabib is pretty good at really utilizing the triangle system, where if he picks up the leg, you then start defending, and then that defense turns into his offense, and before you know it, you're getting dragged to the mat. And when you're dragged to the mat against the fence, he's able to make you sit up against the fence, and from there you're pretty much also triangled up, right? If you try to defend, that defense turns into his offense and you start getting ground and pounded. It's a pretty big mess from there on. And as soon as he wraps your legs into a leg triangle lock, it's pretty much a done deal, right? And from there it is pretty much Khabib controlling you and slowly beating you down. So what I envision the stand-up department to look like is just Khabib coming forward to the middle of the octagon, seeing that Justin Gaethje is not going to back down, then he's going to start bouncing around him, take the outside a little bit, try and find his range, and from there I believe Justin Gaethje is going to close that distance, pressure Khabib closer to the fence, and then some real desperation is going to set in on Khabib, because the way that Justin Gaethje walks his opponents down, it is not too aggressive, it is not over aggressive, it is not excessive in what he throws in, it is very economical. A jab can push you back, a leg kick can make you stationary, and with all those things, I believe that he can catch Khabib with a beautiful jab, follow it up with a beautiful leg kick, make him stationary, and then make Khabib work. And when he makes Khabib work, I think Khabib is going to feel that pressure, which is going to be immense, because it is very calculated and a very controlled aggression. It is going to be something totally different than what Conor McGregor brought to the table, because Conor, when he came forward, it was just shoot to take down, right? Shoot the left hand to take Khabib out of the fight and knock him out. Justin's not like that. Justin is really nice in terms of building up the pressure, and as soon as Khabib feels that, I think he is going to be able to get out of the way, because like I said, he has tremendous footwork, pretty quick on his feet, and when he's able to get out of there, I think that he can make Justin Gaethje sense the takedown incoming. And when that first takedown is shot in for, I doubt that he will get the immediate takedown. I think the best way that he can get it done is if he can shoot in for a takedown and then make Justin Gaethje deny it, scramble for it, and make him back up closer to the fence, and from there you can shoot in again or feint the shoot in, jab one more time, get a single leg, drive him against the fence, and from there try to get the fight to the ground. And I believe that is going to be the turning point. So in terms of what the fight is going to be looking like, in general, it is going to be Khabib getting out of the way of Justin Gaethje, because Justin is going to be pretty much in control throughout the entire distance at which the fight is going to be playing at. As soon as he starts coming forward a little bit, as soon as he makes Khabib back up, as soon as he makes him take another step that he doesn't want to, I think then he's in control. But Khabib is pretty quick with his replies in terms of jabs, so he can create some distance again, and with that little distance, it's pretty much all he needs to shoot him for a takedown. And when he does, if he chains it up, I think he can get a finish on those takedowns, though it is going to be pretty hard, but I don't think it is going to be something that Khabib can't get over or get accustomed to. As soon as he gets the data down on Justin Gaethje, I think he can do it consistently throughout the fight. If we take a look at the grappling department, when you take a look at Justin Gaethje, he has been able to scramble quite a few times when he's getting taken down, really. But if you take a look at those takedowns, they're very explosive, they're very forceful, and they're pretty much the total opposite of the way that Khabib Nurmagomedov likes to take his opponents down with. When you saw Dustin Poirier shoot in for a double leg when Justin Gaethje was coming in on him, you kind of have to imagine and use logic that that is not going to be a takedown Khabib will shoot in for most likely, because it is pretty risky to even complete. It is going to be something that Justin Gaethje is going to have an opening to scramble in with. And when you take a look at the way Khabib likes to take his opponents down with, is just overall pressure him without you even touching him. And when you get to that point, getting a hold of the single leg is pretty much a lot safer than shooting him for a brute double leg takedown. And because of that, I don't think that we will see a lot of room for Justin Gaethje to sprawl, to scramble away from the takedown, because he'll be close up to the fence anyway. So when that is the case, I think he will get taken down, and when that takedown occurs, we will see Khabib immediately set up a nice system where he can wrap his legs in a triangle lock, get a control of his wrists, and just get a good control of Justin Gaethje's posture and make him get out of those holes and get his limbs free. And when that happens, you know, Khabib is always in control. And I believe as soon as that takes place, Khabib will pretty much look for any finish he can get. He's pretty good at taking the back of his opponent, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's able to get a neck crank or another rear naked choke on his opponent. In terms of Justin getting back up, I don't really see it, to be honest with you guys. but we may be surprised as well, you know, we never really know until the fight takes place. But in terms of the entirety of the fight, we have, I believe, what you can consider a 50-50 fight, in my opinion, because the fight, when it takes place in the stand-up department, it is going to be pretty hard for Khabib to get the control of that, and especially when he's being pressured, it is not something that he can get out of the way of immediately, because yeah, sure, Conor is a great offensive pressure fighter, but it is one hit at a time. With Justin Gaethje, it's pretty much set up shots, go for the legs, and make the opponent stationary. Conor was never able to get Khabib to be stationary ever, and because of that, Khabib was able to bounce around, jump out of the way, sidestep away, and then shoot him for the single leg. I don't think that Justin Gaethje is going to throw one big shot at a time, which will create an exit that Khabib can take. So with that said, whenever he is able to get back in the position where he is the ring general, I think when he shoots him for the takedown, I think he can get a single leg and complete it. But getting out of that pressure of Justin Gaethje, it is going to be pretty hard for somebody like Khabib, because his best defense is his footwork, and if he can't move around, he's going to be a stationary target. And in terms of head movements, I don't think Khabib has that great of head movement anyway. So when he gets hit with one good hard blow, I think that is going to set a lot of desperation in, and I think that he could be open for a TKO. But that is something that is pretty unlikely to happen immediately in the fight, because yeah, sure, in the first round Khabib likes to take the outside, but I don't think Justin Gaethje is going to open up that hard and that quick immediately, and I highly doubt that Justin Gaethje is going to get the range down so fast. And the more the fight plays out and the more rounds go by, I think Khabib is going to have a better understanding of the range, and I highly doubt that he's going to get trapped like that consistently in the fight. So with that said, I believe that in the end Khabib is going to be able to land a takedown and probably get a finish on Justin Gaethje if he were to win. That is how I see Khabib doing it, but we cannot really neglect the chances that Justin Gaethje has of getting a stoppage himself. So like I said, it is a very close competitive fight. A lot of people overlook it. I always saw Justin Gaethje as a pretty hard stylistical fight for Khabib Nurmagomedov, and I'm really excited to see what will go down in this matchup. This was why Khabib Nurmagomedov defeats Justin Gaethje. If you haven't seen episode 1 where I talked about why Justin Gaethje defeats Khabib Nurmagomedov, then be sure to check it out with the pinned comment down below. As always, in the end, only time will tell what will truly happen. For now, I have been Keenan from Keenan KTV, signing off. Later.